Everything we need inside the barn, including videography stuff, should be in these two backpacks. Rocky, you should take biosecurity gear. I'll also give you a trauma kit, because we just might be split up.
I'm in the safe house with a group of activists who are planning to break into a pig farm tonight. Their goal is to steal some pig feces and nose swab the animals in order to prove their hypothesis, which is that the next global pandemic is brewing inside an American factory farm.
Do people want to write down our jail support phone number and possibly our address as well? Getting close to the street where we're going to turn left, so people want to prepare to drop. No cars behind us, right? Let's go. Turn off the light. It's all good, just go. Okay. Let's stay single file if we can. Rocky, let's leave you right here. You're our only eyes and ears once we're inside, so if you see or hear anything, let us know.
The activist tactics are pretty extreme and illegal, but they have good reason to be worried. The World Health Organization says about 75% of emerging viruses that affect humans originate in animals, including COVID-19. And scientists who study disease transmission say that the animals we should worry about are living inside American industrial farms, where sheer scale creates the perfect breeding ground for the next pandemic.
Let me tell you, most hogs don't have this lifestyle, okay? If you have several thousand hogs packed in together, and they're all genetically largely the same, then it selects for the most virulent pathogens that are possible. And so in the course of industrializing livestock production, we are also industrializing the pathogens that circulate among them.
This has already led to outbreaks. In the late 90s, chicken coops in Asia fostered the evolution of the bird flu, which still infects humans to this day. In 2009, the swine flu was traced back to a factory farm in North Carolina. The bug killed nearly 500,000 people.
Focusing on diseases alone when they become a pandemic is kind of a little bit too late. You know, once a virus goes human to human, there's not much you can do.
What's the worst case scenario?
That it will spill over into the people that are tending to these animals, adapt to the human immune system, and then circulate among humans to the point that we'll have no defense for it.
Despite these fears, farms are difficult to monitor, even for government food safety inspectors. They're forced to look for diseases inside slaughterhouses. But in recent years, under pressure from the pork industry, the Trump administration has made that harder to do. In 2019, officials at the Department of Agriculture passed a rule that would give pork producers more control. The program gives the option to reduce the number of government food safety inspectors by 40% and allows plant workers to sort bad meat, traditionally a responsibility of USDA inspectors. It also allows plants to process meat as fast as they want, potentially giving undertrained workers less time to spot diseases. That went too far for Dr. Pat Basu, who was then the chief veterinarian for the USDA Food Safety and Inspection Service.
I worked at USDA about 35 plus years.
How did it change over the years that you were there?
The public health situation went down quite a lot when Trump administration came in. Their goal was to reduce 40% of the inspection force. Mm-hmm. And that was not what I thought would be the right thing to do, because we were supposed to make sure that things are protected for the consumers.
Can you explain why that's a concern for you as someone who was a chief veterinarian at the USDA?
Well, the point remains, the biggest eyes and ears we had in the field, they were trained to look for disease conditions. If you remove those people, there's nobody else other than the industry itself looking over their own shoulder. What worries me is people with vested interest in position of power giving the authority away to industry, and industry taking it, and they're not as qualified and not as interested to do work for the consumers as they are for the industry they're working for. This would create a problem where we could have an epidemic outbreak, which we couldn't control.
How real is the fear that we may have a pandemic brewing?
Any day. Any day. Yeah, it can happen tomorrow, it can happen 2 years from now. But it will happen.
Dr. Dankovich works for America's largest pork lobbying group. They say, even with the new rules, the process is still safe, and federal inspectors are still involved. They just need fewer of them.
There's virtually no other food that's under continuous inspection like meat and poultry is, with that many people in each plant every time it's running.
You know, people have come to us and said, we're concerned that the next pandemic could be brewing in one of America's industrial-sized farms. What do you say to that?
It's something that we all take very seriously. I think it's important to understand, though, just to take a step back and look at the way that we raise pigs in this country, which really I think is a global model, was designed to keep the pigs safe and healthy. And I think the intent of the new swine inspection system is really not less people, but using the people that you have in a smarter, better way to tasks that they've identified that really have big food safety impacts.
You mentioned that the intention of farmers and meat packers, it is to hold food safety to such a high standard. Then why not welcome more USDA inspectors? Why not hold up the line speed?
To say just the answer is necessarily more regulations or more inspection, I'm not sure it's as simple as that.
This is a truck right here that they use to transport the pigs to slaughter. Lewis, this is Anna. Do you copy? There's a transport truck pulling into the facility. Over.
Aren't there people that are more qualified or better suited to be doing this?
This is not what I want to be doing with my life. I don't want to be crawling around fields in the middle of the night. I don't want to be facing prison time. I do not want to go to prison. But the reality is, in our current system, a lot of the kind of disease surveillance and testing is left to the industries.
So you're sort of like the vigilantes.
If I don't see anyone else do it, we have no choice. Let's get in this fucking car. 3, 2, 1, stop. Yep. Very smooth.
The samples the activists with Direct Action Everywhere took didn't turn up harmful viruses this time. In previous raids, they found evidence of coronaviruses, influenza, and antibiotic-resistant bacteria.
I think for a lot of people, COVID-19 was a wake-up call. This is a ticking time bomb. There was a small explosion, and frankly, it was small compared to the risk that we're talking about here.
We've had the solution all along. I mean, there are hog producers across this country who are operating on somewhat of a different model.
For Rob Wallace, that means a return to regenerative agriculture, a style of farming that mimics nature, aims to reverse climate change, and holds way less probability of starting the next pandemic.
They are right at the age of exploring, and they open this door on their own, and I catch them all over the place.
Steph Zetah and her husband Dan run a small regenerative farm in Hutchinson, Minnesota, where Wallace gets his pork. The Zetahs aren't afraid that the next viral pathogen could possibly be coming from inside their farm.
Hey, come on, be nice.
Will all of these pigs go to slaughter ultimately?
Yes.
Ultimately,
All
yes.
of them? Yeah?
Yes.
This is not a vegan sanctuary.
No. I got that.
These animals aren't just meat. They're not just a way for us to make an income on the farm. They're part of the regenerative farming model.
So here at your farm, we can hang out with your animals, we can touch your animals, and they're out here. What would you say to someone who says that that in itself is a biosecurity hazard?
There is no way to control all external forces in nature. And I think that's what an industry tries to do. We don't try to eliminate all pathogens or all viruses or all illnesses or all germs. We try to keep them in balance. And that's the difference between our model and their model. It's almost like they've designed and built a system that preferences illnesses or diseases.
Is this type of farming possible to do on a large scale?
Why does everything have to get big? If we have one farmer running 10,000 acres, or we have 100 farmers running 100 acres, there's still the same amount of food being grown. So what we could have if we extrapolated this model over millions and millions of acres and we worked with nature rather than against it, we could be living in a landscape that becomes more beautiful every year, where livestock and wildlife lives in unison, where water gets clearer and clearer every year. We need to care enough as producers and consumers to make that happen through our choices.
Well, COVID-19 has put us on a crossroads here. So we can have one of two futures. One future is we continue on this path of increased industrialization. And in doing so, we are likely to select for a pathogen that emerges and spreads around the world and kills 1 billion people. The other future is one entirely different from what we're on now, and that is basically returning to a kind of hog production that treats the animal as part of what's called a natural economy, meaning economy that's related to the soils and the waterways and the living nature of the animals involved.